get to remove and to eliminate all the sufferings in our lives, ultimately ending and ultimately putting hold to this infinite suffering samsara. So today also, since we have gathered a lot of merits in our samsaric journey because of having meritorious, because of doing meritorious deeds with regard to the ministry of Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. So because of those kinds of deeds, we have gathered immeasurable amounts of merits so that we are able to listen to these Arya Dhamma. And that is why we are fortunate to understand this supreme Dhamma, which leads to the elimination of infinite suffering. So let us wish that all the meritorious power which has been generated throughout this samsaric journey may agglomerate together to create the perfect environment for us to complete the understanding, ultimately attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Accept this blessing with the sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And throughout this samsaric journey, of course, we have done good things as well as bad, immoral, unwholesome deeds as well. So because of that, we might have gathered negative energy that might cover up our Nibbana pathway. So since gratification or satisfying the gratifications through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body were our main priorities during this samsaric journey, we might have done these unwholesome deeds in order to achieve that, especially hurting, killing, having unethical relationships, lying, slandering, using harsh words, using meaningless words, mischievousness, greediness, and also maliciousness, and having wrong and distorted views about the reality of the world. We might have done various kinds of unethical deeds towards Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha as well, and also for the other living beings. So let us acknowledge that if we have done those kinds of things, that it is wrong. Let us determine ourselves that we are not going to do these kinds of things again. And with that, this is the forgiveness we are seeking when it comes to ministry of Buddha. So in the Supreme Buddha's, according to Supreme Buddha's teachings, according to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, the forgiveness is about acknowledging the wrongdoing as wrong and determining not to do those things again. With that determination resides sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So during the past week, I got few questions about practicing of Supreme Dhamma. And it is very important to interact with questions because since the discussion, the live discussion does not go effectively when it comes to exchanging questions and having it as a discussion, it is very important to post all the practical questions that you have, at least throughout the week, so that I can get a clear idea about the deficiencies in Dhamma that you have, so that we can cover up those deficiencies to fulfill your understanding. So it is important to focus on the way that you practice, because it is not about gathering information. It is not about gathering knowledge or reading books, because if you go back to Supreme Buddha's time, there were no Tripitaka. It was written at Alvihara in Sri Lanka at about 400, at about 100 BC, if I recall it correct. So before that, there was no Tripitaka. So written Tripitaka or written Pali Canon. So let's say just after 3 months of passing away of Supreme Buddha, then only they did the first council, and at that council, all the Dhamma were recited, and all they were processed and classified according to these 5 Nikaya: Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, Sanyukta Nikaya, and Khuddaka Nikaya. So before that, there were no such things. But in those eras, there were many arihats, many individuals who has attained great phala, great states of Sotapanna, Sakadagami, and Anagami as well. So they did not know about these sophisticated things of Dhamma. But we can assume that most of them were Ugatitanya, the most wise people, and Vipatitanya, the next most wise people, and the rest of and there must have been Neya people as well. So when it comes to Neya, they need more inputs, they need more help to fulfill their understanding. So in this era, it is mostly Neya people that we encounter, or the other one that the people who cannot comprehend Dhamma, they are called Padaparama. Padaparama, in the sense, they are clinging on to the literature or the words, so that they are not understanding the depth of Dhamma. So they are focusing on the words, they are focusing on the definitions, they are focusing on all the history and everything. So, and they are looking for proof from a book, from a renowned person. Otherwise, they would not believe. So that kind of a mindset is not capable of understanding Dhamma. So they are called Padaparama. Unless if the Padaparama get rid of that state of mind, if he or she is able to remove that kind of mindset and be open-minded and listen to Dhamma with the open mind, then that person also will be able to understand Dhamma. So what we have to focus is Neya. So the third part, where those people can understand Dhamma but need some kind of help more than the first two people. So for that, we need to know Dhamma in different aspects. We have to know Dhamma, we have to understand Dhamma from different ways. And when that is done, you would start to understand Dhamma in different ways, and you would be able to apply that Dhamma to the real world practically in different various ways. So that would increase your understanding, that would increase your wisdom. And actually the wisdom here, the word wisdom is not actually the correct word that we should use for prajna. So if we go to the etymology, the word is prakurti jnana. Prakurti means reality. Jnana means, we can say again, wisdom. So wisdom is only a part of it. Wisdom about what? Prajna is actually wisdom about the reality. So you are seeing the world as it's supposed to be. So you are seeing it as it is. You are not seeing the corrupted version of the world. If you are seeing the corrupted version of the world, we call it vinyana. So it's vikurti jnana and prakurti jnana. Prajna means prakurti jnana. So you have the reality. So wisdom about reality is actually prajna. So there's another wisdom. It is actually not a wisdom. It's also an understanding, and that understanding is wrong and corrupted, and it gives the view of avidya, and that is called vijnana. So those are the two differences when it comes to prajna and vijnana. So the most important thing that we discussed here is asking questions about your practice. So even if there are no bad questions, there are no unnecessary questions or stupid questions. They are all questions about pathway. So that question would highlight a deficiency in your understanding. And if we cover up that deficiency, that would help others, that would help you, and that would help the discussion. So it would be very helpful if you could put these questions so that we can move forward with the discussion. So today's discussion, I thought, so on the last day we had discussed 5 components of the Dasa Sanyojana, and there are 5 more to go, but those are actually technical things, because only after Anagami you would be focusing on the last 5. So I thought we would pause that discussion and we would go back to very important part that we might want more, that this understanding would be more beneficial for initial stages to comprehend and practice Dhamma. So the main part is, so everyone is having this doubt. How do we know that we have comprehended, or we have become sotapan, or we have opened our eyes of wisdom? How do we know? So this is a very burning question. Every Arya person, or a person who would start becoming an Arya or listening to Dhamma would have. They would initially have this question: what? How do I know that I have understood the things that I should, or am I lacking anything? How do I know? Is this the stage that I should start practicing, or is this the stage that I should still listen to Dhamma and try to understand? So this is a burning question everybody gets. So to answer this question, even I got this question initially when I was listening to Dhamma, whether I have understood it correctly. So there was a thing that you have to listen to Dhamma in front of a live person. So in my case, I have not because I have listened to Dhamma through YouTube videos and recorded Dhamma sermons. So I had this doubt that whether I have the correct understanding of what I am hearing, because I am not listening from a live person. So I have these kinds of I also had these kinds of questions initially. So it is natural to have that kind of questions, that have that kind of a question when you are practicing in the initial stages. So the answer to this question will first try to understand it from a technical aspect, and then we will go for the practical aspect. So if we look at the Dhamma, it says that Asha Anusaya Jnana and Indriya Paropariyanta Jnana are two of Shad Asadharana Jnana. So there are seven wisdoms that are only there in a Supreme Buddha. Other disciples do not get these wisdoms. And two of them are what I stated before. So those are the two wisdoms that are needed to see one's Indriya status and one's defilement status. So only if one is able to understand those two, then that person would be able to say that this person has attained this phala or not. So since Supreme Buddha is the only noble person who has this understanding, he is the only person who can 100% say that this person has done his job. So I'll give you a small story that happened during the Supreme Buddha's time. There's someone called Mahanama Shakya, and he's a prince, a Shakya prince. He was said to have attained Sotapanna Phala, and it was said by Supreme Buddha himself. But one day he comes to Supreme Buddha and asks him, I am very afraid whether I'll go to the four hells because of my actions. Sometimes I scold at people when I see faults in the market, when I see problems in the workplaces and the places I own. So when that happens, I get so angry. I feel that at that moment, if I die, I would go to four hells. So Supreme Buddha says, no, that won't happen. You have attained Sotapanna Phala, and if someone has attained Sotapanna Phala, then that person would not go to four hells, and that is Supreme Buddha's teaching, and that is not going to change. So this happens another time. This same thing repeats again. After some time, he was consoled by Supreme Buddha, and the prince goes back to his work, and after some time, he comes back again with the same complaint. And he was given the same answer. And he comes back a third time. And at that time, Supreme Buddha says that if I say that these two trees is going to last 100 years, would you doubt it? He said no, because if something is said by Supreme Buddha, that is going to happen, because it was said after seeing through great wisdoms. So just like that, if I said that you have attained Sotapanna Phala, it won't change. You would never go to the four hells. And that time only this prince was consoled. And then after that, he was okay, and he went back to his work. And there's a story like this. So that story also explains us that normal person might not know whether he has attained that phala or not. But there's a thing called pratyaveksha jnana. So this, when you acquire that wisdom, that is it's not a common thing between Aryas to have this wisdom. This is not a common thing among Aryas to have this wisdom, because only few of them, especially our Lokutero or Abhiratnalankar Thero, had this wisdom where he could tell exactly that he has attained this phala, because they can see the amount of defilements. They can feel through their wisdom. They can feel the amount of defilements that has been removed. They can feel the amount of defilements that are there to be removed. And so because of the difference, they know that I have attained this phala. So there are people like that, very rarely. But that is actually the technical aspect of it. So another person who does not have these wisdoms, or does not have got proof from a Supreme Buddha, might not know exactly. But even though the person cannot say 100%, they can guess to a very high degree of very high degree. And that means they can guess 80%, 90% that they have attained this phala, because it is the practical aspect that you are going to use. It is called the sandittika quality of Dhamma. And when it comes to the sandittika quality, you are able to understand the amount of raga, dvesha, moha that has been eliminated, and the amount of raga, dvesha, moha that is there in you. So only a person who has attained the understanding would be able to know that. So if you know that this much of raga, dvesha, moha has been eliminated during this much of time, let's say you take 1 year of your spiritual life, 6 months of your spiritual life, and you go back to where the person you were before, and think about that person's mindset, and you're comparing that person's mindset or that person's level of raga, dvesha, moha with the person with yourself right now. So when you are comparing the two, if the problem or the raga, dvesha, moha has reduced over time, then that is a good way of understanding that you have doing the correct thing, that you are practicing the correct pathway. So this is a very good way of understanding that this you are on the right track, because it is said that when it comes to the supreme Dhamma, once Mahapajapati Gautami, which is the stepmom of Siddhartha Mahabodhisattva, and she came to Supreme Buddha and said that there are corrupted versions of Dhamma while you are here in this world. What happens when you pass away? Because when you are not there, there would be a lot of corrupted Dhamma, and nobody will be there to correct them. So the people, so the ones who are coming, let's see, the disciples of you that would be coming later in this ministry of Buddha, what would happen to them? How would they understand whether this is Dhamma or not? Which is this is correct Dhamma or not? So at that point, Supreme Buddha replies, that wouldn't be a big problem, because it is very easy. So if some Dhamma increases Raga, Dvesha, Moha, that should not be taken as Buddha Dhamma. If some Dhamma reduces Raga, Dvesha, Moha, then that can be taken as Buddha Dhamma. That is the easiest way to understand whether this is Buddha Dhamma or not. So there are these two examples or the stories from literature or the Pali Canon helps us to understand or helps us to map out the way of understanding the understanding, whether we have the understanding about Dhamma or not. So when it comes to this understanding part, when you are going for the practical aspect, when you are listening to Dhamma, try to think that you are listening to something new and try to grasp Dhamma and try to absorb Dhamma with a fresh mind. When you are practicing Dhamma, have the idea that you have understood, because if you have the idea that you have not understood, then your mind is shaky. Your mind is not focusing, because you are doubtful whether I have understood. Is this the way I should practice? Is this not the way? I'm not sure, and that would be your dilemma. That would be your doubtful mind. And get rid of the doubtful mind. Think with wisdom whether you are getting rid of raga, dvesha, moha. And if you have doubts, ask from a person, ask from an Arya person who would help you to sort out that problem, to get rid of those doubts. And when those doubts are eliminated in your mind, then practice Dhamma with confidence. And when you are listening to Dhamma, don't have the idea that you have fully understood and you have nothing to learn again, because that mindset would become a cloud to your understanding, and that cloud would not let the new or the deficiencies to be fulfilled. So get rid of that mindset and listen to Dhamma with the intention of gathering more understanding, gathering more wisdom. So if it suits the Raga Vinaya, Dvesha Vinaya, and Moha Vinaya, that is another thing that you should remember. So you have to, there's easy way of understanding whether this is Buddha Dhamma or not. And that is also given by Supreme Buddha at the same discussion with Mahaprajapati Gautami. So he says, you have to apply it to the equation, you have to apply it to the Dhamma, and you have to apply it to the Vinaya. So if you apply it to those three, and if it fits the core concepts of Dhamma, which is what is the equation? Equation is Sutta. Sutra means this Four Noble Truths. So Dukkha Jnanam, Dukkha Samudaya Jnanam, Dukkha Nirodha Jnanam, Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipadaya Jnana. If the Dhamma that was heard aligns with this equation or sutra or Chattari Arya Satchani, then that is Buddha Dhamma. And you have to apply it to the Dhamma as well. What is the Dhamma? Dhamma is the Paticcasamuppada Dhamma. So if it aligns with the Paticcasamuppada Dhamma, then again you can decide, can confirm that this is Buddha Dhamma. And the third one is Vinaya. What is Vinaya? not the Vinaya that is written in Pali, that is written in Pali canon. Vinaya Pitaka, not the Vinaya Pitaka. Vinaya Pitaka is for monks. This Vinaya is for everybody. Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, Upasika. So, what is Vinaya? Vinaya is Raga Vinaya, Dvesha Vinaya, and Moha Vinaya. Vinaya means you are disciplining the Raga, disciplining the Dvesha and Moha. So if it disciplines, if it removes, eliminates your Raga, Dvesha and Moha, then that's the correct pathway. Then that with that only you can decide whether this is Buddha Dhamma or not Buddha Dhamma. So this is the easiest way of deciding what the correct pathway. Whether you are in the correct pathway, whether you are practicing the correct ways, whether you are listening to correct Dhamma, and whether the thing you are doing is working or not. That you can understand with this kind of guidelines, with these kinds of small tools that you can use. So this is the practical way of doing it. So there's another practical aspect that you can remember. So since the only way to know 100%, even for me, even for most of us, is the confirmation from a Supreme Buddha, and that won't happen, that there are no way that is going to happen. So that suffering mindset, that doubtful mindset is suffering. The suffering mindset would last forever in our minds if we do not know how to treat suffering. Now, we know that if you put it into the equation is Chattarya Sachani. So there's suffering now in our mind. This doubtfulness, this uneasiness is suffering. It's not a pleasant experience. So we know that Dukkha Samudaya Jnanam, at Dukkha Samudaya Jnanam, we know that there should be a reason for suffering, and that reason is attachment. And what is the attachment we have? We want to know and confirm, and that is the attached state. Now, put Anicca Dukkha Anatta there. Cannot have anything. You cannot have. This world is not according to expectation. Cannot control according to expectation. It's always suffering, and it's pointless. So why? What is the point of knowing that this is attained or not, when you have no control over that fact? If there was Supreme Buddha alive, then we might have gone and asked. We have that much of pain and suffering regarding the understand. But since we don't have that option, the only thing, even if we have understood Supreme Dhamma, that result, the things that we are going to do would not change anyway. Think about it. If we have attained the understanding, then also our journey would be to attain Nibbana. That means elimination of Raga, Dvesha and Moha. If we have not understood the Supreme Dhamma, still our goal would be to attain Nibbana by eliminating Raga, Dvesha, Moha. So knowing or not knowing would not change our primary goal or our pathway. Nothing would change. So if nothing is going to change from the fact that we know that we have the understanding or not, if that does not change anything, what is the point in knowing? It's just a mental assurance that gives. So mental assurance is actually at the Arihat Phala, where we know that for sure that we have eliminated all the sufferings and there's nothing else to be done in this world. So until that point, we have to practice. We have to follow the pathway. So since the following pathway does not change from what we have understood so far, we would just follow the pathway, and we would do our maximum, whether we have the understanding or we don't have the understanding. That would eliminate all the problems. If it is happening in this life, that would happen in this life. If it takes more times to go, then we are choosing the shortest pathway to Nibbana, because we are doing the maximum that we can in this lifetime. So that is what I settled at last, because we have no guarantee, 100% guarantee. You can say 99, you can say 98, but no 100% guarantee, because we don't have those kinds of wisdoms to say 100%. There are three types of, there are three you can say types of wisdom. So when it comes to a wisdom, there's avabodha jnana, anubodha jnana, and pratyaksha jnana. So anubodha jnana is like a assumption about the understanding, and that is also wisdom. It's anubodha jnana. And when it comes to avabodha jnana, you have the understanding that you have attained this, and that is anubodha jnana. When you have pratyaksha jnana, you exactly knows that you have attained this part. So there are three parts. Someone can have anubodha jnana, avabodha jnana, but to have pratyaksha jnana, you have to have this pratyaksha jnana, or you have to have a confirmation from a Supreme Buddha. So this is what you need to understand when it comes to this idea of whether you have attained or not, attained the Sotapanna Phala or not. So focus and do what is needed to practice and to fulfill the pathway, and that is enough. And get rid of that mindset that whether being doubtful. So when you are getting rid of that mindset, it doesn't say that you are not going to search for Dhamma anymore. You would search, even we would search until Arihat state, because there's a deficiency in our understanding. That's why we have not attained Arihat. So we have to fulfill that understanding. But when we are practicing, we know that this is the pathway, because there are other parameters that we can use and guide ourselves in Supreme Dhamma, in practicing Supreme Dhamma. So I think I gave you an idea about this problem that everybody encounters once at some point in their journey in attaining Nibbana. Hope I did not make things more complicated. Hope I could help you to solve that problem. If there are any questions about that part, you may write, you may text it into the chat, so we can finish that part. We can move back to practical aspect of Dhamma, where we are focused on understanding Chattaro Satipatthana. That means Satipatthana is the Ekayana Magga, or the only way that explains, or that moves, that paves the pathway to Nibbana. So it is the most important part, most important practical aspect of Dhamma. Chattaro Satipatthana. So there are four parts: Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and Dhammanupassana. We'll try to approach that practical aspect with the understanding, because if someone is lacking the understanding, then we cover up that aspect as well. Then we try to understand the logic behind practicing Satipatthana, especially Kayanupassana, and how it removes Raga, Dvesha, and Moha. So if you have any questions about the discussion so far, you can add it into the chat.
Very much, Thero. I think you covered a very important part, and anyone who is sort of going in the journey, this is a question that we've all asked. So I believe it must have been very beneficial to the participants. So let's give them a few minutes. If they have any questions, you may post. And as Thero very clearly said, it's important that you have the understanding first in order to go to the practice part. So I encourage all of you to not to worry whether your questions are good, they are deep, or whether they are simple. As Thero very correctly said earlier, but important is that we arrive at understanding it. So if something is lacking, you ask, then it's easy for the Thero to fill that gap and help all of us to move forward. So therefore, do not worry about posting questions. Don't worry about the language and any other issues there. We will try our best to, if we don't understand it, we'll ask from you and try to clarify it. You may voice it out if you are comfortable with that, or you may type it in, and we will try our best to help you. So we'll give you a few minutes with that encouragement to ask the questions so that we may all proceed in the practice of Dhamma. Thank you very much.
Is anybody having any questions, or can we proceed to the Satipatthana part?
There are no messages at the moment.
So let's proceed, and if you have any questions and you are still typing, you can still put it into the chat, and at the end we'll answer those questions. And I think that would be good.
Sure, Thero. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So about Satipatthana. So Satipatthana is as I said before, the main pathway, the only pathway that is practiced practical. It is always about the practical aspect of understanding the reality of the world. So anicca dukkha anatta nature. So notice that we are not always, even though we have understood some parts of, or some amount of anicca dukkha anatta, we are not always mindful about it. Sometimes we find valuable things in this world, though we know that there are no valuable things, or the things that we can control according to our expectation, things that are blissful in nature, things that are essential. So even though we know that there are no such things, even though we know that all the things are anicca, dukkha, and anatta, sometimes we forget. Sometimes we still go after things, pursue after gratification, we are trying to fulfill these insatiable organs, systems. So that's what we do. So when someone has attained Sotapanna, that person has the idea about the anicca, dukkha, and anatta nature of the world and elimination of attachment. So getting rid of attachment, getting rid of avidya and tanha, and attaining nibbana would be the only solution. How it becomes the only solution for the suffering samsara. And that person sees nibbana as blissful, letting go as blissful, peace as blissful, non-association as blissful. So this is the basic understanding. If I summarize it to, if I summarize the understanding of a Sotapanna, that would be the understanding that a Sotapanna would have. And the understanding about anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and the understanding that nibbana, or letting go, non-attachment, non-association is blissful. So that is it in simple words. So even though that person, Sotapanna person, have this understanding, that person does not align his actions, his words, his thoughts does not align with what he has understood. Even though he says that the world is anicca, dukkha, and anatta, he sometimes forget about it. He goes after the world, looking for worldly pleasures, goes after the world, compete with this world in obtaining images, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and thoughts. Sometimes they find, because the person has forgotten, because the person is not mindful. He thinks that the world is valuable. But as soon as he thinks about it, he comes to his senses, then he never gets the idea that the world is nitya sukha subha. He always gets the idea that it is not. It is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. But this lack of mindfulness, you can say lack of use, lack of practice, is a problem one would have until that person becomes, at least becomes anagami, where he has a developed Satipatthana. And Satipatthana is completed at Arihat Pala, Arihat state. But it is developed, it goes to a very developed state when you have attained anagami. So that's why the attachment and conflict is removed in anagami phala. So if we go back to the Pali text, since you have studied this Pali text, it says kaya kayanupassi viharati ata pisampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanassa. So this is the understanding. This is the practical aspect. So you use kayanupassana to eliminate the attachment and conflict. Vedanasu vedananupassi viharati atapi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanassa. So you use the vedananupassana as well to do the same thing. You can use the chittanupassana and also dhammanupassana. Chitte chittanupassi viharati atapi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanassa. Dhamme dhammanupassi viharati atapi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanassa. So there are 4 tools you can use to get rid of this problem of lack of sati, lack of samma sati. So if I explain about the practical aspect of it, so you know about the 5 aggregates. That goes as Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. So when this is called Panchaskandha, this becomes Upadana Skandha. And it goes like that: Vedana Upadana Skandha, Sanya Upadana Skandha, Sankara Upadana Skandha, and Vijnana Upadana Skandha. So what makes the 5 aggregates of Panchaskandha to become Panchupadana Skandha is the Upadana. And we know where Upadana comes. It comes in the Avidya Paticsamuppada. So Avidya and Tanha are the main reasons that makes 5 aggregates, 5 Panchaskandha, Pancha Skandha. So it is the Upadana is the main reason that changes its Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana to Rupa Skandha, Vedana Skandha, Sanya Skandha, Sankara Skandha, and Vijnana Skandha. So you know that when it comes to Rupa, there are Rupa, Vedana, Rupa, Sanya, Rupa, Sankara, Rupa, Shabda Rupa, Gandha Rupa, Rasa Rupa, Pottabha Rupa, and Mano Rupa. There are 6 Rupas. So those are the things that are taken from the external world by the internal organs. So when they are taken, you know that it is a mental copy that we are talking about. So Rupa are patterns, and those are mental patterns. And the touching of these external and internal organs itself create this pattern, and you get the element of feeling, and that is called Vedana. And you get the element of recognition. As soon as the feeling occurs, at the same time, you get the feeling of recognition. You understand feeling and understand, they all combine, or they all are combined together. So at that same point, your mind is working. So element of processing should happen, and that element of processing is called Sankara. And you get the element of consciousness as well at the same time. So these things create the Panchaskandha. And this is how working, thinking, and going, talking, living being is seen. Just like a ball of fire, when it is rotated, a ring of fire is seen. So this process, when it happens in a very synchronized manner, in a very aligned way, in a very smooth manner, in a very fast speed, we can see a person who can think, who can talk, and who can do. But that is not the case. We know that the world is not according to our expectation, and it works according to a Paticca cycle, and there's no control in a Paticca cycle. But when things go aligned very perfectly, when things go very smoothly, we get the feeling that it is can be controlled, and that is not the correct idea. So back to the main topic. So we are going to understand how we why we should practice this Satipatthana. So we'll go from this, how the mind works. So Chitta, Mano, I think we have discussed this before, but I would explain it again so that you would be able to understand it more. Chitta, Mano, Manasang, then Hadayang, Pandarang, then Mano, Manayatana, Manindriyam, Vijnanam, and then Vijnanakando. So here we explained before that until here it is there even in an Arihat. This part is even there in an Arihat. So let's take an example and try to understand how this works. Chitta. So in the Chitta state, let's take an image, a three-dimensional image. So when it is seen with the eye is just an organ, but it should be taken into our mind. So this is just a helping organ to do that. So external item is what we are going to see. So if we take a three-dimensional graph, XYZ, so things are seen in an XYZ plane, and this is a mental, and it is seen in a mental space. So when it is seen in a mental space, it is actually in the eye, it is grasped with the Chakku Prasada Rupa, and that is a Suddhashtaka, which is a very small, very small particle. So it can only detect another Suddhashtaka, light rays coming from another Suddhashtaka. So when it is mapping, it should map this cube from one end to the other. That means height, width, and depth of it in particles. So each particle should be detected separately, and it is copied into a mental space. So that's how you get the mental image. So when it is done in the Chitta state, it is just copying. So it just get copied from the external world. It is copied to the mental world. So it's just dots which goes into the past. So you know when what happens in mano means measuring. So this, since the mind has the ability to process, what it does is it aligns these dots one by one, creating this cube in your mind, and it is created. So it was just dots going towards past, mental dots that goes towards past. That is Chitta. It is like just like a moving river It's just like it's just like a flowing river. Cannot stop. Chitta state is something like that. It just moves towards its history. It just copies whatever it sees. When the eyes are open, when there's external light, it copies. And mental copies are always going towards the past. And it's just dots. It's just uh, small particles of light that are being captured. But at that state, nothing can be done. So you go to the mano state where you keep these dots together in a mental plane, in a mental space, where you get a more defined picture here. So it is also not still you cannot work in this world. So for you to operate, you need to know what this is. So you need to know that this is a cube, and that should come from your past experience. So the Manasan state comes. So in that, what happens? You have the external, or because of the data that you have gathered so far, which is in the Nama world, and we call this Namagotta, you can recall because of Namagotta. That's why it is not embedded in the brain, it is embedded in the Nama world. It is connected with the mind. That is why Supreme Buddha could tell his past lives. Because if it was in the brain, then he wouldn't be able to, because the brain was just created few years ago, when at the birth of Bodhisattva. So it couldn't have that much of old details where he got where he completed these paramitas and everything. It cannot be contained in a brain. It's in the Nama world, because the history, samsara, is infinite. You cannot put infinity in a physical space, because physical space is always limited. Cannot put it inside. So it's the Nama world. So you have, in the Nama world, you have seen cubes. You know what to do with the cube. So that comes and that gives the idea that this is a cube. Say it's your mother. So you are seeing the mother just using the same technique. So you map the dots, and then you measure at mano, and then you see, then all the what do you call this recognition part, sanya. So the sanya, so for recognition you need sanya, and for sanya are the things that comes at manasa, sang. So it's, so when sanyas are there, you are able to understand what is it. So you understand it's a woman initially. So if it's your mother, then you initially understand it's a lady. So you have seen human or women of various ages. So you know that this age range, or this is a middle-aged person, or this is an old person. So you can identify that as well. So that level you identify the sanya, or recognizes. Then again, you go to another level. So you go for more detailed analysis, and then you compare the two, and you have a perfect match, and you identify that this is your mother. And even an arihat would do that. If the mother of Satipatthana Thero, who is Sari Brahmin, Lady Brahmin, if she comes towards the Arihat Sariputta Thero. So he would recognize through the same way. So he would recognize that this is a lady, this is an old lady, and this is he would have the exact match that this is his mother, and it wouldn't take a second to that to happen. It wouldn't take a second to happen for that to happen. So at Manasang, then the cycle or the process that happens in lay people, normal people, or asakers, sakers, or people who practice this Dhamma occurs, and that is Hadaya. So when Hadaya occurs, what happens is, so you saw your mother first, then this comes, Sanya Upadana Skandha. So you get attached to your mother, Raga Dvesha Moha occurs, and that becomes the main priority. It is prioritized. Now this mother is not in the external world. So let's compare this box cube to the mother, because it is easy, because nobody would get attached to a cube. So this is the mother, and this is the physical form of the mother, and it is taken by your eyes, and a mental copy is created, and this is the mother, and this mother is actually here. So the mental copy you have, see, when it comes to this process of mind, it is always mental. So this everything from chitta is mental. So the mano. So when Pandarang happens, when Hadayang and Pandarang happens, your mana means mind becomes an ayatana. We know what ayatana is. Ayatana is deficient, minus. So mano is here, the cube at the second place. You can still recall it because it is in the Nama world. You can always recall and get that data in the process. So mano and manayatana, when they are added together, so since this is a zero, this is zero because the mother is just an image. It's a mental image, and it does not have any blissful sensation in it. But if you create manayatana, then that is minus. And you know that when looking from a point of minus at zero, you perceive it as vijnana, or a corrupted sensation. And you have these kinds of corrupted sensation in the past, in the present, in the past, and in the future. So when you compile all of that into a kanda, kanda means a mountain, then we call it a vijnana kanda, the mountain of corrupted, we can say not sensation, but corrupted consciousness or corrupted understandings. So that's what happens. So through this process. So what is the problem here? When it comes to manasam, if you have sanya, see, an arihat also had sanya, but these are sanya or the signs for recognition. So these are signs that are used for recognition, sanya. So if you have signs that has raga, dvesha, moha, so if you have sanya that has raga, dvesha, moha, then hadayang would occur. As soon as the manasa at the manasang state, that those sanya are activated, then hadayang panarang manomanayatana manindriyam vinyana kando, it would go up to vinyana kando, and you wouldn't be able to stop. So what should happen when it comes to Satipatthana? So when it comes to Satipatthana, we have these various signs. Those are the things that are used for recognition, and we call them sanya. So when it comes to sanya, we have various kinds of sanya. There are sanya that does not have a raga, dvesha, and moha part in it. But there are other sanya that has this part in it. So if you don't have raga, dvesha, and moha in your sanya, then you can deal with those. Even an arihat can. See, if an arihat is going for alms, that means pindapata, so he is looking for alms, so he has to first look where the robe is. Now, the robe is a sanya he has taken during his lifetime as a monk. When he just became a monk as a small child, let's say he became a monk as a small child, he didn't know what a robe is. So his teachers taught him what a robe is. From that moment, it is in his mind. The signs that are needed for the recognition is there in his mind. So he knows what the ball is and where the ball is, where his ball is. So he gets the ball, he wears the robe, and he goes from house to house looking for food. So for that, there should be a lot of signs and lot of recognitions that should be done. He should know the path, he should know the houses, he should know the people who serves food, he should know the food. And there are a lot of things that should align there. But the thing is, he sees the ball, this is the ball, but if it is his ball, if it is taken as his with raga, dvesha, and moha, that means avidya. And if avidya and tanha is there with this sign, then that becomes a sanya viparita, sanya vipallasa. Sanya vipallasa is a corrupted sanya. Corrupted of what? Corrupted of raga, dvesha, moha. So if something is corrupted of raga, dvesha, moha, then that would start that hadayang, pannarang, manomanayatanam, manindriyang, vinyana kando. Just like we explained before. So for that to stop, you should get rid of this sanya. So get rid of this sanya viparita, sanya vipallas, or the corrupted sanyas. So for that we use kayanupassana. Kaya means combination. Anupassana means seeing as anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So you are seeing as them as anicca, dukkha, anatta. Kayanupassana. So the classical example is our body. So everybody is attached. If you're not an arihat, everybody is attached to your body. So think about what you get attached. So it's a combination. Combination of what? Combination of various organs. and organ systems. So that is how you see kaya. Kaya, kesa, loma, naka, danta, tacho. You might have heard these terms. So you are going to separate the kaya or the combination into its original forms. In the sense, you have to separate it into a level that raga, dvesha, and moha does not occur. So let's say eyes. You remove the eyes from your body and keep it aside. Now, would you get attached to your eyeballs? No, nobody would. You would not even like to see those things if it was taken out and put it in on a tray. And you remove all your teeth and put it in the tray as well. You remove your nails and put it on the tray as well. This is done mentally in your mind, not that you are going to do it in real life. So you are going to remove your skin and also you are going to put it on the tray. And that would be enough. Now see at your body. Would you get attached? You would not. You do get attached to the other parts that were removed. Still no. So where was the attachment? In what part was the value? So value creates attachment. Attachment creates suffering. So that's how it goes. So you have seen value in this body. You still see, if you try to remind yourself about how valuable your body is, you might, if you know about Dhamma, the Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatta state, that you would say that it is not valuable and it is just a suffering, piece of suffering. This body is a piece of suffering and it is not something valuable. But your actions say otherwise. If somebody tries to harm that body of yours, then your actions would say otherwise. Because if it is another person's body, you wouldn't mind. You would feel empathetic for that person, but you would not mind like it is happening to you. But so then the problem is, where is the valuable component of your body? So there's a way of dividing this body into 32 parts in Kaya Anupassana. So we will not go for 32 parts, we'll go for 5 parts. Kesa, you're removing your hair and body hair as well. So kesa loma. Then naka means nails. You remove your teeth and you will remove your skin. And you will keep them aside and see where the value has gone. Now there is no value, zero value. It's just a piece of meat. It's just a piece of flesh. So nobody would like to even buy it. Nobody would like to take that home. So that's what happens when you divide it into a state where raga, dvesha, and moha does not occur. Say now you do that for other things as well. This is one thing that you get attached to, your body. Let's say you get attached to a painting or a let's say a garden, a flower, whatever it is. Let's say you get attached to your vehicle, your brand new car. So try to find out what part is valuable that you got attached. You should be able to isolate the part. You get that bonnet out of the car and put it aside. You get the seats and put them aside. You remove the steering wheel. You remove the 4 wheels, and you remove the body parts and all that. And at the end, you get the chassis. So you separate that vehicle onto its last nut. So if you do that, and you carefully see whether which part is valuable, you wouldn't like any of the parts. if we could isolate the part, then we could have taken that part and just leave the rest, because the rest is useless anyway. Only that small part which was hidden all along had all the value, but you could not find anything. And if you reassemble the car, if you assemble the car back again, then the value is there. So this value is a delusional thing. It's a delusional value. It's actually avidya, delusional thing that occurs and that gives the value to our body, to the external organs, items, houses, vehicles, external people, whoever you see. You give value because you are delusional at that time. So you are going to get rid of this delusion, and you are going to do that through Kayanupassana. So you practice this bhavana. So you practice this meditation of Kayanupassana. When you are getting attached to something, you try to focus on this method of separation it into its normal parts and seeing that there's no value embedded. So there's this way where you separate it in four basic elements: Apo, Tejo, Vayu, and Patavi. So let's take our body and go through that example as well. So our body is composed of Apo, which is the liquid part, Tejo, which is the heat, Vayu, which is the air, and Patavi, which is the solid part. So these four parts are creating our body. So let's go back to the origin. At the origin, we got, as a zygote, we were there at our mother's womb, and all the nutrients were taken from the placenta, from the mother. So how did mother got those? She got those from the outside world, from animal food and from plants and vegetables and everything. So we can summarize that all of them came from the soil or from the earth. So it was the solid part which was on the earth that we took. It was the liquid part that was on the earth that she took. Then it was the heat that is belonged to the earth, and it was the air that is belonged to the earth. So all of those were taken by the mother, and those were the things that created the being inside her womb. And after 9 to 10 months, we were born, and after the birth, we were given same exact things that our mother ate. So they were coming from the outside world. So we are now maybe 30, 40, 50 years old. So far our body has grown. And at this point we have amount of Apo, amount of Tejo, amount of Vayu, and amount of Patavi that has created this body. But originally it was something which was there in this world, that was belonged to the world, to earth. So after we die, all these items would go back to its original state. The solid part would get back to the soil, so get back to its original owner, which is the earth. The liquid part would again go back to the water sources, and then there are this heat which would be released to the environment, and that is also taken that will also go back to its original place, and then Vayu also would go back to its original place. So, do we have any ownership? Did we have any ownership of anything we used throughout this lifetime? No, they all belong to the earth. So, let's say there's someone named George. So if George is the person, George has a body. So George has Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Patavi. So this Apo, when it was in the environment, it wasn't called George's Apo, it wasn't called George's Tejo, it wasn't called George's Vayu or George's Patavi. When it was after George's death, it went back to its original places. Those original elements went back to its original places, and nobody calls that Apo, which was released from his dead body, George's Apo. Nobody calls that. Nobody calls George Tejo, Vayu, or Patavi. So it was just Apo. So when you get a shovel and when you get that George stuff and put it into a separate place, all four elements. And when you mix it up and when you create a person out of it, now this is your story. Now I'm referring to a person's name, but think it as your story. So you have these four elements are in different compositions, in different places, creating your body. And there's no difference between that Apo and the Apo in the earth, that Tejo and the Tejo in the earth, that Vayu and the Vayu in the earth, that Patavi and the Patavi in the earth. So if there's no difference, why would you give a different value to the Apo component, Tejo component, Vayu component, and Patavi component, which is there in your body, which is there at this place right now? This place in the sense where you are seated. So there's amount of Patavi on the place where you are seated. There's no difference from the Patavi which is there on the earth, because it was never, it wasn't belong to you. So think about it in that way, so that the value would be gone, to just vanish, because now you are dividing it and seeing the reality, seeing the delusion. When you see the delusion, that is wisdom. Seeing the delusion itself eliminates all the avidya. So that's how you see Kayanupassana. There are different methods. If you refer Satipatthana Sutra, there are 13 methods of doing this. And I remember at the beginning of these discussions, one of you asked about this what you call Iriyapata Bhavana. And this is also there in that Satipatthana Sutta. So it was in the beginning, and it wasn't the place to discuss about Satipatthana at that point. I think now you would be able to understand how Satipatthana, especially Kayanupassana, should be practiced. So you have to put it in places where you get attached. Say you get attached to food item. Think about it. In the food, you separate it into its basic forms. You can do it in any way you like, And the basic principle is after division, after separation, that separated item shouldn't be something you get attached to. Because the whole point of this separation is to see the pointless nature, to get rid of raga, dvesha, moha. That is the aim. So let's say you are very fond of eating pizza. So what is pizza? You get flour, you get salt, you get this tomato sauce. Now you can divide that as well. If you get attached to tomato sauce, you can divide that as well and see that in the tomato sauce there are different ingredients. So basically what you can sense through your tongue is salt taste, bitter taste, and sweet taste, and sour taste. Those are the four things that you can sense. So different combinations of these creates the very delicious food item. So if you take those separately and try to isolate the item which gives you blissfulness, you are not able to do that. So you are going after delusional blissfulness. The smell is also like that. The touch is also like that. So for touch, you stroke somebody's head, your child's head. You stroke your child's head, saying that you are a good child. Now this child is sensing that. But what you sense is just as we explained in that Chitta Mano Manasa Hadaya, what you experience is a fraction of feeling. Now we are going to actually Vedananupassana. So in Vedananupassana, what you experience is a fraction of feeling. So these fractions in Mano and Manasam, they are measured, they are compiled together to get a full sensation. And then you recognize with signs you have already understood. If it is not a sign or an input that is not registered in your history, then you would panic. You would think that it is a alien or an animal that touched the head. So the child would panic. But if the child knows the touch of the mother's or father's hand, then he would not. He would just recognize that this is my mother's hand touching my head. So what you can actually experience, if we go back to the if we go back to this, here chitta is just dots of fractions of touch. So this is compiled and measured at Mano. And at this point you understand that this is the hand which is touching your head. And when you understand that this is the process that you have to go through, and only the inputs are coming, just fractions of inputs, and this is something you created in your mind based on the mental image, that is Pottabba Rupa, that was created here. So it is not something, it is not rational to go after the initial object. So it is not rational to go after, or it is not rational to get attached to the external object, because it is something you created in the mind. And you can never experience the whole feeling. It was just fractions of feeling, just goes to history when the moment passes. And when the moment is gone, that feeling, the fraction of feeling goes to the past. And only then you recall it and you combine it, compare it together to identify that this is that feeling. So it is not rational, it is not wise to go after the feeling. So that's why it is said that this feeling is like a water bubble. So if you have seen water falling from a height, there are mini waterfalls at various places, at houses and at various malls and things. So at those places, they create these mini waterfalls to for landscape purposes and everything. So when water falls from a height onto the surface that is down below, it creates bubbles. So when bubbles are created, these bubbles break as soon as they get created. But if you look at it, it gives a very nice, beautiful pattern of bubbles creating and bubbles breaking. Vedana is also like that. Cannot latch on to anything. It just, as soon as it is created, it is gone. But the cascade of bubbles, but the series of bubbles that are created gives a nice picture, and that is a delusion. That is not real. And you get attached to it. You like seeing at these landscapes. You like seeing at these things that are there for decorations. So it is not worthwhile. It is pointless in getting attached to these kinds of things. That is Vedananupassana. Then there's Chittanupassana, where one would see this nature of Chitta, this nature of mind, as Chitta Mano Manasam Hadayam Pandarang Mano Manayatana Mani Indriya Vijnana Vijnana Kando. So it gives it creates illusions, it creates delusional ideas in your mind based on just raw data taken from the outside world. So in this Chittanupassana, as soon as you are very mindful about what is happening in your mind. So in Kayanupassana, you are basically trying to focus on the signs, the corrupted signs. As soon as it is there, when you feel that you're getting attached, you're getting angry, or in other words, when raga, dvesha, and moha is occurring, is created in your mind, you're just trying to focus. There's no basis for raga, dvesha, and moha by just dividing it into particles that does not create raga, dvesha, moha. In Vedananupasana, if you get attached to Vedana or feeling, can be the Vedana of food, it can be the Vedana of touch, can be anything. You see that there's these three sufferings that are attached there. You see that this Vedana cannot be earned without these three sufferings. You understand, you try to understand that this Vedana is not real. It is a delusion created just like water bubbles are creating a beautiful picture, beautiful scenery. So that's how it is created. So you use Vedananupasana when it is needed. When the thing is about Vedana, when you get attached to Vedana, then Vedananupasana is the way. When it is about the delusional blissfulness that is embedded in the signs or objects, it can be images, sounds, smells, tastes, touches. Then that is about Kayanupasana. Then you focus on Chittanupasana. You are mindful about your mind, what is going on in your mind. If it is a raga mindset, if it is a dvesha mindset, if it is a moha mindset, so you see the anicca, dukkha, and anatta nature of the mind. See that this mind is a raga mind, ragic mind, and this mindset is actually vexatious. So anicca. This mindset is actually, it promotes sankhara, which creates sankhara dukkha. However much I try to fulfill this kind of a mindset, it would not get fulfilled. Just like filling up a bucket with empty holes on the base of it. So you cannot fill it. It just, as soon as you put water into it, it just goes out, it leaks out. So just you have to think in that way. And you can use all the other ways as well when trying to tackle this mindset. Because if it's a raga mind, then there should be that object which created the raga. At that point, you can go and put Kayanupasana as well. If it's a Vedana, then you can use Vedananupasana as well. So since you are mindful about what is going on in your mind, you know that this is Dhamma, thinking of Dhamma, and that is good, and you would promote it. You would increase the thinking of Dhamma. Now, at this point, maybe you are thinking about anicca. That is good. As Vitaraga Chitta, Vita Dosa Chitta, Vita Moha Chitta should be promoted. Raga Chitta, Dvesa Chitta, Moha Chitta should be eliminated. And there are times where you get what do you call Sankhitya Chitta. In Sankhitya Chitta, your mind gets blank. So at that point, you are not thinking properly. It's just like you have sleep. It's just like you're sleeping. You're half asleep when you are trying to meditate, you are half asleep. You are not asleep, but you are not awake as well. So at that point, you have to know that this is Sankitta Chitta. And Sankitta Chitta should be eliminated with Dhamma Vijaya, or trying to focus on Dhamma, trying to focus on Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. Should not focus on Samadhi when you have Sankitta Chitta. And when you focus on more about Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta, when the Dhamma Vijaya is more, then what happens? Then the Vikitta Chitta occurs. Vikitta Chitta means your mind is agitated. It goes here and there. So at that point, you have to practice Samadhi. So you are mindful about what is going on in the mind. That's why I took that example. So this is about Chittanupassana. Then there is Dhammanupassana. So you know what Dhamma. So if there's Kama Chanda, Dhyapada, Dina Middu, Uddhaca, Kucha, and Vichikicha, these are 5 nivaranas. To have Kama Chanda. Kama means, Amma means Nibbana. Kama means no Nibbana, the opposite of Nibbana. You have eliminated the peace. You have eliminated the blissfulness. So that's why it is called Kama. Chanda means, Cha means Chitta. Chitta means mind. Andha means blind. So you have blinded your mind because of Kama, because of sensual pleasures. So that when that happens, when that occurs, you identify that this is Kama Chanda that has occurred in my mind. It is not the Arya pathway to promote Kama Chanda. I should eliminate this Kama Chanda. Oh, I should see the reason. You cannot eliminate it on your own. You cannot eliminate it according to expectations. What is needed to be done is you have to find the root cause. What is so valuable to get my mind blinded about it? Is it Nitya Sukha Atta Subha, or is it Anicca Dukkha Anatta Subha? So when you go back to its roots and when you try to identify that there's nothing to latch on to there, that it is pointless and that it is Anicca Dukkha and Anatta, then that mindset would reset, get resetted, so that you would be able to eliminate this wrong or eliminate the unwanted Dhamma like Pancha Nivarana and develop good Dhamma, which is a Dhamma like Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. And you can use the method of 5 aggregates, method of Ayatana, and various kinds of things in various kinds of things. You can practice those things, and that would be Dhammanupassana. So Dhamma means especially about Buddha Dhamma. There are various Dhamma. You can apply those as well, but in the context of Buddha Dhamma. So Anupassana means every Dhamma is also Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. So you are applying that in that sense. So I hope you understand how this works. So what would happen when, especially when Kaya Anupassana is, so it says that if you practice one, you practice all 4. So based on various mindsets, based on various Indriya, power of Indriya, one would prefer Kaya Anupassana to Vedana Anupassana. Someone would prefer Vedana Anupassana to Kaya Anupassana. And there would always be individual preferences when it comes to what is better, Kaya Anupassana, Vedana Anupassana, Chitta Anupassana, or Dhamma Anupassana. So if you are going through Kaya Anupassana, then you are mainly getting rid of all the Sanya Upadana Skandha. Or let's say you are not creating Sanya Upadana Skandha again. So Rupa Upadana Skandha, Vedana Upadana Skandha, Sanya Sankara, Vijnana Upadana Skandha would not be occurring at that point. For example, so if you practice on Kaya Anupassana, since as soon as you got attached, you have this habit of separating these items into smaller pieces where you would not generate raga, dvesha and moha. So when you do it more and more, that original sanya which created raga, dvesha, moha would not occur, because as soon as you saw it, since you have since you have done your homework, or since you have created, you have practiced seeing it as anicca, dukkha and anatta, that data would come as soon as you see this external item. For example, let's say you see there was a time Arihat, or a monk, even before becoming Arihat, he practiced the Satipatthana so well. So he practiced the Attika Bhavana, Attika meditation, where he tried to see this body as a skeleton. So it is actually made of bones. So he tried to see it as bones. So because you would not get attached to bones, there are no raga, dvesha, moha when it comes to bones for that person. If you get raga, dvesha, moha when you see bones, then that would not be the ideal way of doing that for that individual. But for a person who would not get attached to bones, then he can see the body as bones. So he separated it and saw it as bones, and he mastered this meditation for quite some time. And there was a person, a lady, that was walking by on the street, and this lady smiled at this monk. So this monk has very well mastered this art, and he just looked at the person to see whether who is that. And as soon as he did not see a lady, he saw the skeleton. He saw a skeleton, because he has mastered this meditation for so long. So at that point, he's with that samadhi, samma samadhi, he understood the reality of the world. He comprehended it fully, and attaining the nibbana at that point. So he saw the essenceless nature, pointless nature of getting attached to this kind of a piece of what do you call it? Apo tejo vaya patavi, combination of apo tejo vaya patavi, combination of bones. So why would I get attached? And that understanding deepened to get him to Arihat state. So that's how he practiced. So with that, I think I have given an explanation on this Satipatthana and the basis of why Satipatthana helps us to eliminate all the raga, desha, moha. Because at the initial state, what is removed is actually dasana. What is removed is actually vision, the wrong vision, or wrong ideas, ideology, or it is changed. When it is changed, we call that elimination of the wrong vision. That is happened at the Sotapanna Kala. Then there's the Sanya. So when it comes to Sanya, there's this wrong Sanya or corrupted Sanya. We can say this corrupted vision. So here there's corrupted Sanya, and that is eliminated through Satipatthana, and that brings you to Anagami. And there's Chitta. There's this idea that there's a valuable a person that can be controlled, and this person is called myself. The person that is that can be controlled according to that person's expectation. That is the body and mind we have, and we call it myself, but it is actually a combination of processes or Paticsamuppada cycles that are being created, that is created and synchronized perfectly with the physical body. We get this delusional effect of myself. It is not that it is not there, but it is a delusion. So that chitta, the corrupted chitta, also would be eliminated when you reach Arihat. So at the Arihat state, all three would be gone. But at Sotapanna state, only the vision, wrong vision, or the corrupted vision of this of Nitya Sukha Atta Sukha nature in this world, that is corrupted, and that would be eliminated at Sotapanna state, and the person would know for sure that this world is not Nitya Sukha Atta Sukha. So it is how this Dhamma, how we practice Satipatthana, or practice meditation practically, and how we can use it in our day-to-day lives. It is very important to use this on our day-to-day lives, because all the external items that create sorrow, that create suffering, can be this element of suffering in those items could be eliminated with this kind of thinking and with this kind of practicing. So I hope this gives a comprehensive idea about Satipatthana.
Thank you very much, Thero, for that explanation. We have also gone past 2 hours of time. So maybe, Thero, we can open it for any questions that they may have from the explanation that you just did. And so we'll ask if you have any questions on the components that Thero just now discussed. We can take them up for discussion and further explanations. So we'll give you a little time to either ask them verbally or to put them into text. If not, we will probably wind off with Anumodana. There's a question that has come in, Thero. I'll read it out. Venerable Bhante, when Satipatthana practice, how do we distinguish between Vedana, Chitta, and Dhamma? I think it sounds very similar. Do we have to start Kayanupassana?
Now, when it comes to the Satipatthana, so there are different kinds of people. Some they see from Vedananupassana. So there are people who would focus on Vedana. So, and some people would focus on Chitta. That depends on the person's what you call Indriya status. So basically there are 5 Indriyas, that is Shraddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. So based on that, the level of wisdom and level of other Indriya levels, that person's mind would work in a certain way that he would focus on either Vedana or either Kayanupassana or either Chittanupassana and either Dhammanupassana. So, and in the same person also, it would differ. At some points, you would go for Vedananupassana, because let's say you're thinking about a food item. So if you put Vedananupassana to a food item, maybe it wouldn't work, because you are attached to the feeling, not to the food item itself. You would not care that whether this, let's say it's cake. So you like cake, you like eating cake. So you would not, sometimes at some people, for some people, you would not care whether it's cake or the physical cake that you eat. If it can be taken from a electrical pulse or signal, still you would get attached. No cake now. You're not eating cake physically, but you are stimulating your brain so that you can enjoy the sensation of it. Let's say you get a tablet or another or something else that can give the same taste. So you are not attached. At that point, you are not attached to the physical object, but to the feeling itself. So you have to see that feeling is not worthwhile. It is essenceless. So at that point, you put that to the feeling. So it depends on the person's viewpoint of how he sees. For another person, let's say the person is looking at a image, person. So this person is very attractive and all. So for that person, you can put Kayanupassana and try to see that there's nothing to get attracted to. It's actually if you go with the style of Apo Tejo Vayo Patavi, then you can see with that style. If you see with 32 components of the body, you can see with that style. But that does not give at that point, the Vedananupassana would not be prioritized for that person. If Vedana is not the thing that he wants. See, when you do it, it's very practical. When you do it, you understand that in this method, Raga, Dvesha, Moha is eliminated. That is the method you should use. We don't have a guideline or a specific protocol that this should be used at this point and that should be used at that point. It is what develops with Chintame Panya. So when you think and when you practice, this Chintame Panya, or the wisdom, develops. And when that develops, you exactly know what to put where. That comes with experience. So use this when you are focusing on your mind. You know that at some points these thoughts come to your mind that are not wholesome, that are unwholesome. When that occurs, you work with the chitta, because you are not focusing on when that becomes blank, vikitta chitta, when it is sankitta chitta, you have to focus on the chitta itself, because there's no kayanupassana there or vedananupassana, because that focusing on that end would not remove the raga dvesha moha level of it. You have to focus appropriately, and you have to have a bit of a experience to do that. An experience would come when you do it, and you would know what to put where. Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana. Especially most of now, there are various, as I said, there are various organ, indriya levels. So based on that, one would find different set of remedies or different set of approach effective to another person. So it depends on it depends from person to person. So I am telling my aspect of it, but it would not be the case for another person. So that's why you have to focus on your life, on your pathway, on your defilements, so that your chintame panya would develop. That's why practice this and ask questions, so that it would improve the way you practice, and it would eliminate or whichever the deficiencies that is there in your understanding. I hope it's clear.
Thank you very much, Thero, for that. I hope, as you said, that the answer was clear. If there are any other questions, please go ahead and share with us. We will give it about another minute. If you have more questions, Thero will move on to the Anumodana maybe after another minute or so.
Okay.
I think we can move on to the Anumodana. So let me kindly invite Venerable Dhammadassi Thero to do a short Anumodana and conclude the session for the day. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So today we have discussed mostly about the practical aspect of Dhamma, how we can eliminate Raga, Dvesha and Moha and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. With all the discussions we had, all the questions we answered, all the actions, thoughts and words we have created through this sermon and through this discussion, we may have created immeasurable amounts of merits, and it might have developed our wisdom. And since our ultimate goal, or the only goal, is to attain supreme bliss of Nibbana, all the hindrances, barriers and obstacles that may cover up the Nibbana pathway may get eliminated with this meritorious power which is created today and may all the beings, or everyone who gathered here, and everyone who participated and asked questions and who helped us, may get the background to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. With this, accept this blessing with the sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu,
sadhu.
sadhu, sadhu.
And let us remind all the deceased relations throughout the samsara, especially the ones who helped us throughout the samsara, teachers, parents, especially people who gave us jobs, people who showed what is right and what is wrong when we were lost, and people who constructed our houses, workplaces, and all the people who helped us throughout the samsara, especially spouses, children, relations, neighbors, etc. And let us remind all the people, all the living beings, sentient beings who were harmed by us throughout the samsara without knowing what is right and what is wrong. In pursuit of gratification, we might have caused various kinds of unwholesome deeds towards them. Let us remind all of them as well with metta and kindness. And let us remind all the people who helped us to have this discussion, people who created these Zoom platforms, people who were behind the scene helping us to comprehend this Dhamma. Let us remind all of them as well. And let us remind all the deities of 6 realms of gods and all the Brahma gods in 20 planes of Brahma. And let us remind all the sentient beings in the universe as well. Let us spread this meritorious power to them. May they admire this discussion with bright moods, and may they get happy and delighted thoughts because of these meritorious deeds. May, if they are in miserable places, may they refrain from doing sins. May they replace those sins with meritorious deeds, and may they lead happy lives, ultimately attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. With that thought in mind, transfer this meritorious power to all of them with metta and kindness.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And with that, we would end today's session, and I would be ending the session with a small blessing. Abhivadana Siris Nichang Adhabchayano Chatharo Dhamma Vadanti Ayuvanno Sukambalang Ayurarogi Sampatti Sagga Sampatti Mevacha Ato Nibbana Sampatti Minate Samijjatu.
Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu,
sadhu.
sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much, Thero, for taking the time to explain very important aspects of Dhamma to all of us today. And also, many thanks to the participants for your patience, your prompt attendance, as well as asking questions today, as well as leading to this Dhamma discussion. With that, we conclude today's session, and we will again extend our thanks to Thero with 3 sadhukaras. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Theruvan saranai pehamba.
Saranai.
Teruvan saranai.